risk reward. It was all about reward. So my risk was, I knew there's a good chance I was going to break myself off. I knew stress fractures. I knew shin splints. I knew all that. That being said, I took the challenge and I did it. But to answer your question 100%, this is what comes back to is your heart rate monitor. You got to learn to heart rate train. The purest way to me to see if you're overtraining is to have your zones. Your zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, zone 5. And also your resting heart rate. Your resting heart rate, you have to know that. That's very important to see if you're overtraining. So let's say your resting heart rate is a 41. You wake up in the morning time, you've been training now for 5 months for a marathon or wherever you're training for. You wake up, resting heart rate is a 41, but today it's a 57. Your body's telling you that you're starting to overtrain. It could be hydration, it could be nutrition, it could be overtraining. There's something going on in your body that's making your heart work harder. If you have time and you really want to do well, you need to take time off. Time off is very important there. But how you know about overtraining is you have to know where your heart is, your heart rate, if you're not injured. Go ahead and say something.
I agree with that 100%. I love the risk reward in the heart rate variability or the heart rate zone training. And one of the measures I look at is heart rate variability. And many devices will track that for you, creates an algorithm and looks at the variable length of time between your heartbeats, and it gives you a measure of kind of the autonomic stress on your body. So that's a great way to tell you, but really it's as simple as what David said is, your resting heart rate, and if you're not coming back down to that, your body's staying stressed. So, and then it's just the determination of the risk reward on, do you want to push forward and risk getting injured, or can you back away and rest and then come back?
The one thing I'll add to that real quick, 1 second, is I've done a lot of experiments on, don't do this at home, on hydration. And I've done them in literally like labs where I would allow myself to get 5 to 10% dehydrated. I would literally go into a 6-hour evolution and I would keep my hydration where I was staying hydrated. Like let's say it was 24 ounces of water an hour. I would go through, do that, and I would literally just take off 10 to 20% of that, maybe 15% of that, and my output would literally drop drastically. And it wasn't because of nutrition, and it wasn't because of being overtrained or whatever. It was simply for hydration. I would take 20 minutes, rehydrate my body, and I was right back to where I was my first hour. So hydration is very big as far as, I found out for myself as far as overtraining. Hydration is very big for that kind of stuff.
All right, so before I start taking other questions, somebody asked, can they have something similar to this but for their shoulders? What can they do for their shoulders?
Yes, so these straps you can put up on your under your armpit here. You have a location for them.
Where can you get them?
Where can you, so
people have asked that too.
A bunch of them online right now. We use Smart Tools. It's a great one because you see how easy it is to clip in, clip out. They have one that's going to automatically measure your occlusion pressure, and it'll variably adjust as you go. So highly recommend that. But there's a ton of them on the market. So we're going to move on because, again, we don't want to keep the pressure on him that long. So we're just going to show.
Pass the fuck out right now.
All right, and I'm also just going to make a comment. So for anybody that's asking the question, both David and Casey have been tested, and both are negative, which is why neither of them are wearing masks. They've been working together for the past couple of months, and that was before we even started working with Casey. That was one of the things we all did. So just so everybody knows. In case you're upset that there are no masks on for today. All right, I'm going to look to another question while you guys are going.
We have this real quick to share with them.
All right, I'll come to the side.
So one of the things we're doing here with David is, go ahead and you just go through the exercise, I'll explain it. But one of the main things we found with him was how dominant he was on his quads and how forward tilted he was with his pelvis, meaning, you know, extended. And I mean, he's talked a lot in his book about how tight he was with his psoas and quads, but he's also very dominant on those, which holds his pelvis forward. One of the things we've started doing with him is just repositioning his pelvis backwards and activating his hamstrings and his glutes and adductors. The big things we're trying to rebalance to take some of the demand off the quads, which will then reduce some of the compression force on the knees as he's pounding. So it's translated very nicely. I mean, he's done, for the past 2 months, he's done thousands of these repositioning exercises to increase better hamstring strength, glute strength, and adductors. And what it's translated into is, and I'll let David explain, but he's feeling less pain in his quads or in his knees than he has because he's not completely quad dominant and loading his knee. Let's go ahead and take those off.
Great. So yeah, that said, basically a lot of my knee issues, I talk about, like Casey said, all the stretching I did, my body was pretty much just like in like this. So these knees were not in position at all. Through Casey's work, through stretching out, my knees got in position, and now my body's more aligned. But what happened was I used my quads for everything. I wasn't using my glutes or my hamstrings. Now my whole leg is taking the brunt of the force versus just this nice little kneecap. So everything is coming here versus here, and that's why you want to do these.
And to revisit that, because we're seeing a bunch of questions on distance running, knee pain, outside knee pain. And one of the things I would suggest right away is looking at your structure and your pelvis, because a lot of times you start dipping forward and you're staying quad dominant, you're going to start getting this outside knee pain. So a quick fix is starting to just engage your hamstrings. Start getting some pullback on the pelvis, and you'll take stress off that knee right away.
What are 3 exercises, Casey? So I know that we just did this one.
Yeah, so right away, what he demonstrated there was basically you're just pulling down with your hamstrings and you're pulling your pelvis into flexion. And it's just neutralizing your pelvis and it's activating the hamstrings. You need the hamstrings insert into your pelvis to actually pull it down. So that's why the hamstrings are so important for pelvis control. So another one he's doing is he's gripping with the ground and he's alternating his knees forward and back. So here he's getting some hamstring pullback, he's getting some adductor activation, and then he's also shifting through his SI joints. So this is great for low back pain and hamstring activation.
So when I first got here, this exercise, while right now I'm still not the best at it, but when I first got here, it was like this.
Yeah, I
couldn't control that.
That.
Yeah, it was horrible. So,
and then moving to the ball like this is more progressive, right? Because you see a lot of people, everyone has seen this exercise, what he just did, but where they do it wrong is they bridge up and they extend their spine in their pelvis, and then they pull in. So we're trying to, what he does really nice now is he holds a neutral spine and then just pulls in. So that's the difference, is not going up into extension and pulling in, but just holding neutral. And then you can take that and look at a lot of the different exercises you're doing. If you're going into too much extension, pull back into neutral.
Okay.
What kind of questions do you guys have?
Oh my gosh, so many questions, but they keep coming in. Okay, hold on. I'm just going to try to go back to. Can you read one off of there, or Casey?
Yeah.
Can you take one off of there?
Casey.
All right, this one's for you, David, actually. What's the biggest change you've made in your training and recovery in the past few years?
It actually wasn't in the past few years. It happened in the past couple months. And I'm still this way. I push through pain and don't do what I do. But what I've now learned is I'm pretty broken, but now I'm pretty good. But I now just back off of all that. I listen more to my body, and my results are huge. So my running miles, I used to always believe, it's called the placebo effect. Let me just cut it down. The placebo effect. Most of us believe at least me, that we're not in shape for the event. I've been training for 100-mile race, 200-mile races for years. I'm in shape right now to go out and run 200 miles, right now. But what happens is my mind starts getting a hold of me and I start panicking before a big race and I'm like 3 months out. So I start ticking up that training more and more and more. And what happens is I get deep into overtraining. What I've learned is that's a placebo effect. My body's in shape, my body's ready to go, but my mind is telling me that we need to do more. So I've learned to control that a lot more.
So because this just is another question that I think will fit with this thought, was how do you declutter your mindset outside of workouts?
So about decluttering, your mindset with all these workouts and stuff is, once again, you have to listen to your body and you have to just listen to only how you're feeling. The clutter that we get is usually noise that we put into our own brains. So that's what we have to learn to control the most. And that was my big problem, was I was cluttering my mind with a bunch of bullshit. You gotta clutter it, not clutter it. You gotta fill it with facts. And the facts are there, so look at your training log. Your training log is a factual thing. If you don't have a training log, get one. It's not just about training, it's about studying, whatever. Get that log out and look at it. And that log will tell you exactly the truth.
Yeah.
If that log looks pathetic, you now know that what you're putting in your mind is truth. If you look at that log and the log says, wow, I put in 100-mile weeks, blah, 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 and you're still saying you're off, that's when you got to check yourself.
All right. So, these questions are coming in really quickly, so I have to choose one because then they keep coming in more. All right. Talk about heart rate, because a lot of questions are coming in. How do you do your resting heart rate? What are the zones for heart rates? What's the best heart rate?
Do you
monitors?
Want to cover this? Want me to cover it? Or?
Let's start with your experiences.
Okay.
You do the zone training.
I used to be the guy that, most of us are the people that get up in the morning time and we fucking try to PR every damn run. We wake up and yesterday I ran a 5K in 19 minutes. So today I'm gonna run the same 5 fucking K in 18:55. That's how I train. I go to the gym. All right, I did 225 10 times. I'm gonna do it 11. Everything I did was that kind of training program. That kind of training program gets you one way: fucking injured and overtrained. So how I learned this was like back in 2007. I was training for 100-mile races, and how I trained for 100-mile races was never just go out and do more than you did the day before. That's how I trained. Do more than you did the day before. That got me overtrained. So I saw this guy, heart rate training. Specifically how this works is it's designed specifically for you. That's what's good about Casey's. Everything he does specifically for you. My heart rate's different than yours. It's 220 minus your age for a lot of people, but that's kind of just a bullshit reference, but it's kind of out there. So you have to know your resting heart rate. You have to know on an everyday, me being healthy, me having hydration, nutrition, proper sleep, low stress, what is that heart rate? For me, it's in the 30s, like 37, 38. So I know if I wake up in the morning time and that resting heart rate is 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 20 beats higher, I know that I have screwed something up, whether I worked out too hard or not. But you can't get that without zone training. So you get the resting heart rate, then you get your zone 1. Your zone 1 is why I never take days off. People go, my God, you're overtrained. No, I'm not. A lot of my days when I'm tired are in a zone 1. Zone 1 is a very low active heart rate. It's active recovery heart rate. My zone 2 is basically from like a 140 to like a 157 heart rate. And I do 80% of my training in a zone 2. And that's how most of us back in the day when I was training had a very inefficient heart. Because I woke up, I just ran. When you train most of your miles at a zone 2 heart rate, that heart rate is becoming very, very strong, and everything is very effective at that heart rate. Then you got zone 3, zone 4, zone 5. But I don't even touch zone 4 and zone 5 hardly ever, because what I'm training for is mostly zone 2 and zone 3. So, you know.
Yeah. And on like a energy pathway system, you know, he's training in that zone 2 is more on that aerobic oxidative pathway, and then the 3, 4, and 5 is getting more anaerobic to even to your creatine phosphatate system. So,
Usain Bolt type shit.
Yeah. So I think that's great advice on the heart rate training, and then again on the heart rate variability. I think that's there's so many trackers now that are great that people can wear, and it gives them that.
Can you explain heart rate variability to people?
Yeah. So the heart rate variability is just it's the fluctuations or the length between your heartbeats. So it's essentially exactly what he was explaining with you waking up one day with, you know, a low normal resting heart rate, the next day you're high. Well, there's just going to be your variability is going to be way off. And they've done a lot of research on this where low HRV shows that you're not handling your stress well. So the autonomic nervous system is getting stressed and your sympathetic load is pretty high. So it's a good indication to start slowing down when you see your HRV start plummeting. So it's just there's a lot of good effective quantitative devices that help measure that, as well as the heart rate stuff.
Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You want to put your elbows on that thing and sit down?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to ask you because a lot of people are asking. Shin splints, and can you talk about shin splints, recovery from them, what to do with them, etc.?
Yeah, shin splints are the runner's nemesis, right? So,
Thank you.
First thing is gauging the pain in your progression. You know, just knowing, like what David said, look back at your training log. Are you progressing too fast? You know, is your intensity raising too quickly?
10% rule, people.
Because you can adjust that just knowing, okay, I did too much, so I need to scale back because I'm feeling it. You know, the other thing treatment-wise is you want to start to lengthen that tissue. Acupuncture is great. But also looking at your body globally. So having someone check out things like we're just talking about with your pelvis, your structure, because if your structure's off, you're going to put more stress on your foundation, on your foot, on your knee, on that tissue itself, and it's just going to be prone to getting inflamed. So best thing is address any strength deficits through the pelvis, work the foot. The posterior tib goes right into the foot on the medial arch, so you can roll out the foot, lengthen that tissue, and really check your training log.
All right, Allie Long would like to know who's your favorite soccer team.
Oh, that's easy. Hi, it's the OL Reign. Is she jumping in?
Not yet, I don't think. There's so many things coming through, it's hard to see, but at least you answered her question, which was very important. What about any stretches for the sciatica?
Oh, interesting. That's a little bit of a loaded question because depending on the source of the sciatica, whether it's central coming from the spine or if it's peripheral coming from the leg. Oftentimes with runners that maybe don't have an injury to the spine, they're getting compression through their piriformis where the sciatic nerve can run.
And just so you know, your piriformis is right here.
Yeah.
Right around this area here.
Yeah.
All right?
Exactly.
Okay, so I make sure, because I'm fucking telling
That's perfect.
I'll be fucking shit up.
A lot of times that nerve will pierce right through that muscle, and over time you'll get some compression to that, and that'll cause irritation. So again, look back at your training. Are you doing too much right now? You back off and let that muscle just recover on its own. But good leg stretches are nerve glides essentially. So I mean, you can look that up. I don't think we have time to really show nerve glides, but nerve glides are specifically for the sciatic nerve would be good. And strengthening. It could be a lack of strength is why your muscle is starting to grip. So getting more glute max strength.
And one more thing, Jennifer, on that, a lot of these injuries are from overuse. Yeah. So that whole 10% rule thing, 5-10% rule, if you're just starting off, if you look at your training log, I will keep on saying training log. That is your Bible. That's the holy grail of why am I fucked up this week. Look at the last few weeks and it'll tell you why you fucked up this week. If you look at week 3, you've been training for 4 weeks, and you've gone from week 1, 10 miles, week 2, 20 miles, week 3, 40 miles, week 4, 50 miles, those jumps are way too big. So, while you may be feeling great because you just started working out, you're going to get overuse injuries by doing that. So stick to the 10% rule. What that means is if the first week you did 15 miles of running, let's just say running, take 10% more than that and add that to that, and that will be what you do next week.
All right. As you can imagine, David, because you've talked about it so much in the past, everybody is
Stress
asking
routine.
that and SOAS.
SOAS.
Yes.
Okay.
They're the two things that are coming up more than anything else on here.
Okay. My SOAS is pretty much right now, would you say it's pretty good?
Pretty good, because we've repositioned his pelvis.
So what was killing me about, and how I wish I had so much fucking more time, how my pelvis started getting repositioned was because these quads, that was quad dominant, was just yanking the hell on everything. It was just pulling me. So basically that caused everything. So all my stretching I did helped that. So I was looking for psoas stretches.
So your favorite psoas stretches.
Okay.
Yep.
This is my absolute favorite psoas stretch. It's first thing I'll do is I'll sit here, and these are the only stretches that I do for like 30 seconds. Most of my stretches are long stretches. But I'll sit there and I'll lean forward, and what that does is that literally is pulling my hip flexor. My hip flexor right here going up, all the way up into here. I do that for 30 seconds. I switch legs. Then I do that 3 sets each leg for 30 seconds. Then this is my favorite stretch of all. You do this, you pull this back, which gets your quad. And so this is the area that was really jacked up on me. So, I kind of want to show them all the fungus, but I won't do that right now.
No, not today. Next time,
So
something
basically
special for next
This is
time.
getting all this area here. This is my absolute favorite psoas stretch. So.
Okay. Do you have one, Casey, that you would add?
That one is perfect. And the only thing I add with that is when you get into that stretch, not to let your back go into extension. So
Okay.
your pelvis and back.
Okay.
Because it stresses the low back. So, and he wasn't. If you watch that, he was in perfect neutral position. So that's the only thing to maintain on that stretch, but that is a great stretch. And a lot of times, those are great static stretches. I do a lot of table stretching, which is just a little different. So the next time you get body work or manual therapy, ask the person working on you to do a table stretching, because that's a great way to open up your body, your hips, they can work through your psoas, stretch that. And a lot of times it's really effective compared to just stretching on your own.
And the last thing I'll tell you, once you figure out where your psoas is, you can actually feel it. Self-massage, getting deep into that psoas muscle, like just really getting in there, it truly helps out a lot, loosen that up.
All right. So nutrition. Everybody asks. So I'm going to start with one thing before nutrition. As always, people ask, how do you maintain muscle mass while you do so much running? What are you doing? What does the workout look like? Casey, if you have thoughts too on this,
So for me, I don't have a problem for some reason, and no, I'm not on steroids. Don't take them, so I know he's on steroids. No, he's not. So basically, I don't have any problem gaining size. My body, that's why I got into powerlifting. So for me, it takes more of me to be at 190. My body wants to be 200, 205. That being said, a lot of shit in life, I don't have great genetics, but my body wants to be bigger. But how I keep my size right now is a lot of people want to emaciate themselves, like runners.